to reach the rest of the province. Islanders have reported being turned away from everything from dentist appointments to eye exams.
I'm just watching the news here on my little baby PVM. But you may wonder, how am I watching the news on this video monitor? I don't have TV service. Do I have a Roku hooked up to it? Nope, I don't own a Roku. Bridget does, but I don't. Am I playing it from a VCR or something else that has a recording of it? Nope, not that either. I am actually playing this from YouTube on my own computer. How about that? How the heck am I doing this? Well, I recently got a couple of devices. They were given to me from the TV station, and they're really freaking cool. Not useful to the station anymore, but definitely useful for me. Here's one of them. It's a Geffen HDMI to composite scaler. This takes an HDMI input, and I have an HDMI port on my video card on this computer. You plug HDMI into this, right there, and it converts it to either S-video or composite, and you can use them both simultaneously. So I have the composite output of this hooked up to the baby PVM, and it's exactly as you see it. It's awesome! Look at that, huh? And it acts just like a third monitor. The computer sees it flawlessly as a third monitor because it's connected to one of the 4 video outputs of the video card. See this? I can take the weather here and just drag it across. That's pretty sweet, huh? That is so cool. And it supports any type of resolution that you want to throw at it. Go into the display settings here. There it is. Monitor 1, 2, 3. And I have it running at 640 by 480. And if you didn't know, of course, ever since Windows XP, the lowest resolution you can set is 800 by 600. But you can actually get 640 by 480 pretty easily. You just got to go into the advanced display settings and go into the display adapter properties and click list all modes, and everything that's supported, including 640 by 480, is there. Pretty easy. And I can go in here and I can turn the resolution up if I want. Here's 800 by 600. There it is. Now we're running at 800 by 600. You can see everything smaller. Hell, let's just go to 1920 by 1080. There! We're displaying a 1080p picture on this 5-inch PVM from 2000. Now, of course, it's not useful at these high resolutions. Well, I mean, I guess if you're watching YouTube, it's fine. You know, it doesn't really look any different. But if you actually want to use a program, like use an interface, this PVM, this particular model of PVM, the Sony PVM5041Q, is only capable of 250 television lines of horizontal resolution. So even 640 by 480 is higher resolution than this particular monitor can actually resolve. I cannot see what I'm doing. Is that 640 by 480? Yes. So 640 by 480, I mean, as you can see if we look up close here, you can make out the text, but it's definitely not very clear. And of course, this monitor only has a composite input. If it had S-video, because that converter supports S-video, we'd get a bit of a better picture. But how's that, huh? A friggin', oh, I don't know why it's flickering like that. Oh, that's Vice Grip Garage. A friggin' 5-inch PVM being used as a computer monitor. How crazy is that? Now this box has a couple of switches on it. You can switch between PAL and NTSC. And of course Sony PVMs support PAL and CCAM, I think, in addition to NTSC. All of them do. So if I flip the switch to PAL, it freaks out for a couple of seconds, and then it comes right back. Switch it back to NTSC. And there's also an underscan and overscan switch. I currently have it set to underscan. If I switch it to overscan, you can see the picture gets cut off a little bit. So underscan's good if you're using a CRT monitor, especially if it's a old television or something. But yeah, how neat is that? Now of course we do have the bigger PVM here, which not only has an S-video input, so we can get a higher quality signal into it, but it's capable of 450 television lines of horizontal resolution, which gives it a total horizontal resolution of about 600 lines, which is almost enough to perfectly resolve a 640 by 480 image. So a 640 by 480 computer output actually looks really good on this larger high resolution PVM. Let me plug the S-video into it and you can see. Don't talk to me or my son ever again. Here we are on the big PVM with an S-video signal, and you can see things are looking much sharper. Look at that, the text is perfectly readable. We're running at 640 by 480. Let me bring this over. Looks pretty good. And actually, I think even 800 by 600 is perfectly readable. Let's take a look here. There we go, 800 by 600. And the text is still pretty readable. No problem. 1024 by 768 is pushing it for this monitor. Yeah, the text gets kind of blurry. But if we had one of the even bigger PVMs, the newer, larger ones like the PVM14L5, that actually have, I think, 600 television lines, or I think 800 line, 800 television lines of resolution, the bigger multi-format PVMs have, because they're HD capable. They would have no problem resolving a 1024 by 768 picture. But yeah, how about that, huh? Oh, I gotta go into the secret way back door to get back to 640 by 480. Oh, she screwed up a little bit. Uh-oh. Something happened. There we go. Just took a few seconds. Oh, and of course, because HDMI can carry sound over it, if I open my sound settings here, it does show up as an audio device. So that is how I can get sound out of this thing. Well, the sound's plugged into this, not this one, but you heard the news there at the beginning of this video. So yeah, it works for sound too. It's awesome. What an awesome device. And so friggin' cool to be able to use a PVM or any old CRT TV or whatever you want as a third monitor. That's pretty darn cool. Even if it is limited in its usable resolution, still really dang cool. Now let's add another piece of the puzzle. You might have seen this thing earlier in the video that I gingerly shoved aside. It's an RF modulator made by Gemini Industries. And this one's pretty nice because it can take not only a composite input, but an S-video input. And output an RF signal on channel 3 or 4. That's really nice having an S-video input. I don't think very many consumer RF modulators can do that. I bought this at the thrift store for pocket change way back and shoved it in a box because I didn't know if I'd ever use it. Well, I'm really glad I bought it now because I definitely use this. What do I do with it? Well, I have resurrected my redneck transmitter. I made a video about this way back if you want to see how I did it, but I've got two cheap antenna boosters from Amazon wired into each other, and they're wired backwards. So what would normally be the antenna input is actually inputting the signal from the RF modulator, boost again, and then the TV output is going into this antenna which I've mounted on the wall. So I can now use my portable TVs to tune into this and play on my portable TVs the output from my computer. That's pretty darn cool. Let me get one and show you.
And he's even lazier than usual, if that's possible.
Hank, the time to shape Bobby's character is now, while the material is soft. Bobby's case, exceptionally soft.
I don't know what to do here. I've already taken away everything.
This is the Sony Watchman FD210 from 1982. I've made a video of this thing before, and we are receiving the output from the computer over channel 4, and as you can see, it's working just fine. The picture on this Watchman is way worse than I remember it being before. I wonder if capacitors are starting to go bad or something, or maybe it's just because my transmitting setup is kind of crap. I do have a, well, I don't know if I do or not. I actually ordered a blonder tongue modulator on eBay almost a month ago. And not only have I not received it yet, and it's only coming from the United States, the seller hasn't even marked it as shipped. So I've messaged the seller, haven't gotten a response. In a few days I'm going to open an eBay case because I have a feeling I may have had my money taken. But once I get a blonder tongue modulator, at some point, I'm hoping I can set up 2 channels actually. One with an output from the computer, and one with an output from maybe the local PBS station, which has a digital transmission, or something like that. It would be cool. But just having the blonder tongue modulator instead of my current setup would probably have a lot higher quality of a signal. But there you go, anyhow. So I mentioned I have 2 of these converters. Here's the other one. It's a Kramer model VP502XL. It's called a UXGA/HD scan converter. This one has a VGA input, and it can accept up to 1600 by 1200 resolution. And it again has both composite and S-video outputs, and you can use either of them or both simultaneously. It can also switch between PAL and NTSC. And the reason it says HD scan converter is because it also supports inputting a high definition television signal. Well, how do you do that when it's got only a VGA port for an input? Well, this will accept an adapter that converts VGA to component, VGA on one end, and then 3 BNCs for component on the other end, or 4 BNCs if sync output is one of them. And this can support the horizontal scan frequencies not only for a computer monitor but also for a television. Kramer made a cheaper model called the VP501XL that accepts only VGA, so up to 1600 by 1200 VGA, but the 502XL can accept VGA and also standard television signals going through the VGA port, which is pretty nice. It's got an on-screen user interface, which the other one doesn't have, and it's got an overscan underscan function. You can freeze the output, which is nice, automatic image adjustment, and of course a menu where you can do several different things. So let me hook this guy up, and I'm gonna grab another computer to hook up to this, and we'll see what this thing can do. Here's a computer you guys haven't seen in a long time, the Epson Action Note 4SLC33 486 laptop from 1993. I've got the VGA output hooked up to the Kramer, and I've got both the S-Video and composite outputs connected to the larger PVM, and as you can see, computer's not even turned on yet. We're already getting a color bar output, and there's actually quite a few outputs we can choose from. Go into the menu here. So let's see, I think advanced is where the different test patterns are. Yes, it is. So actually, if I go no input, I can change to different patterns. See, save setting, yes. There we go. And I have both the composite and S-Video hooked up to different inputs on this monitor. You're looking at the S-Video right now. So if we look at this, you look at the crosshatch pattern. Now let me switch from S-Video to composite. And you can see it gets a little bit fuzzier. So there's a comparison between composite and S-Video. Take a look at the different patterns here. The other patterns aren't as interesting. That's 100% color bars. There's 75% color bars. There's that crosshatch again. Red, green, blue, and that's it. So there is that. And of course there's lots of other settings here. Zoom. You can move the picture around if it's off center. You can do that for both the on the output and the input side. Oh, let me look at the picture setup. Contrast, brightness, sharpness, flicker filter, saturation, very nice. So, let's turn this laptop on. There it goes. And the monitor's freaking out a little bit. There we go. There's an 80 column text output on a PVM. Very readable on this high resolution Trinitron tube. And I can see we need to go into underscan, so let me do that. And of course we do have color output here. See that? Perfectly readable. And again, you're looking at this through the S-Video. If I switch to composite here, it gets a little bit fuzzier. So there's S-Video, and there's composite, and there's S-Video again. Subtle change. Let me run a program here to bring something, bring an image up here. I have a JPEG viewer. I forget what it's called. Picked view. So, picked view. There we go. That's an old picture. I don't look that good anymore, unfortunately. But there you go, a VGA resolution graphic displayed on this PVM. Let's run Windows. Let's boot right into Windows here. There you go. Looks pretty good. It's not perfect. It's not as good as a computer monitor. But it's more than readable on this high-resolution Trinitron PVM. Now we're on S-Video. If I switch to composite, you might be able to see there's S-Video. Here's composite. Maybe my camcorder doesn't have enough resolution to show you, but I can see things get a little bit fuzzier. There's S video, composite, and back to S video. You can definitely see the difference. And if I could pipe component into this, it would be even better. And earlier I was talking about VGA to composite cables. You might ask, can I use one of those? Just go straight from the computer to the PVM. No, not on these PVMs, because these PVMs do not support the horizontal sync frequencies that computers output. Those VGA, those straight through VGA to component cables only work for PVMs that support computer sync frequencies, and the PVMs that support that are the multi-format Sony PVMs. So the PVM14L5 and the PVM20L5, those are the ones that you can plug a computer output directly into, and they will display it. At VGA resolution anyway. I don't know how they would do for higher resolutions. But these PVMs, you can't do that. But there you go anyhow. Let me plug the image into the baby PVM just so you can see what that looks like. There you go. Windows 3.1 on the 5-inch baby PVM. And text isn't really that readable. Of course, the baby PVM has much less resolution. And I'll go back into DOS here so we can see what 80 column text looks like. And again, it's kinda readable, but just barely. Ooh, Tetris. Let's look at Tetris. I think this is text-based Tetris. Oh, there you go. Oh, okay. Oh, it was in demo mode. Well, there was Tetris. I'm going to leave you tonight with one more neat thing that I wanted to show. What you're looking at right now is what appears to be quite a retro-looking weather forecast type thing. And it is. What you're looking at is a simulated Weatherstar 4000. The Weatherstar 4000 was a computer developed and used by the Weather Channel. The Weather Channel is that cable channel down in the United States that you can tune into and get the weather forecast and radars and lots of other stuff 24/7. Well, the Weatherstar 4000 was one of a series of computers developed by the Weather Channel for this purpose, and it was introduced in the early 90s, and some municipalities kept the Weatherstar 4000 in service until 2014, when the satellite that the Weatherstar 4000 depended on for data finally was retired. So a lot of people my age and older are very nostalgic for the Weatherstar 4000. I mean, notice this very, very 90s user interface here with the non-aliased text and the solid colors and the really basic graphics. A lot of people are very nostalgic for this, especially because it's been 6 years now since the very last of them went out of service, and it was a part of people's lives for such a long time. So beginning in, I think, 2002, this guy, which I assume grew into a group of guys, developed this simulation of the Weatherstar 4000. It's a computer program that runs on Windows, Linux, and I think there's even a Mac version. And it basically just takes readily available data from the National Weather Service and simulates the graphics that the real Weatherstar 4000 put out. It's incredibly accurate. The only thing missing in its default configuration is the Weather Channel logo up in the corner here, but you can add that. I just haven't bothered to yet. But I discovered this recently, and holy cow, this is cool. Now, we never had this in Canada. We don't have the Weather Channel in Canada. We have other stuff, but we never got this system in Canada. So I personally have no relationship with this, but my god, it looks cool, and I'm really glad I set it up. So it's just running on my computer here. The program for it, let me get out of it here. Oh, I think I gotta click escape. The program for it here is incredibly configurable. It actually has a small learning curve figuring out what everything does, but it's extremely configurable. There is music that plays just like the real Weatherstar 4000, but I can't play that obviously for copyright reasons. But you just set it up, you put in your local town, and of course it only accepts American towns. For some screens it'll take Canadian towns, but oftentimes they don't display correctly. But once you set it all up, and you run it, and it just goes to town. Now I've got Calais as my local town, and there should be a symbol here, like a cloud raining or whatever, but the local National Weather Service repeater, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't put out that data. So I get temperature and stuff, but not the actual weather conditions. Although on other screens, like this screen, I do get weather conditions. So it's kind of random. But there you go. Pretty cool, huh? I think this is so cool, and I've been using this quite a lot. I run this into the RF modulator, and I can pick this up on my vintage portable TVs, and I think that's a really neat use of my vintage portable TVs. And this is going to be a great demonstration because I finally want to begin making videos of my vintage portable Casio TVs. I have a collection of Casio TVs. See, we have an animated radar here, pretty cool. The simulation is so well done. It's not an emulation, it's not an emulation of the real hardware, it's a simulation made from scratch. Every graphic, every text was all manually programmed to simulate the real thing, and it is so well done. So yeah, this is, and if you follow me on Twitter, plug for my Twitter account, The Maritime Girl, I've uploaded a couple of videos of a couple of different Casio TVs displaying this Weatherstar 4000 simulator. So if you Google WS4000, you can download the program. It's free, and spend some time setting it up, and then you can have your own simulated weather channel from the past, just like this. Pretty cool. But anyway, that is a look at a couple of devices that you can use to convert a computer monitor output to composite or S-video, to put into a PVM like this, or to a standard television set. Really, really neat things you can do with this. You could have a dedicated media center computer, and you know, if you have a subscription to something like Netflix or Hulu, there's a lot you could do with devices like that. So really cool, really glad I have the ones I've got here. Pretty fun to play with, and a really neat use for these vintage PVMs and my vintage TVs. So there you go.